And if you can gamify whatever objective it is that you're looking to do in your life, in 90 days, you will see a huge impact. And so I gamified my strategy. I've gamified being unemployed during the pandemic. I gamify my business development. And so I think about, how do I prefer to play games? I think of that psychology, and then I start to build out the structure to, in some ways, motivate me and then continue to inspire me to gain traction, because it's hard.
We are super glad you're with us here today at the Badass Leaders Podcast. We know you chose this, so thank you for saying yes, and get ready for an amazing episode. Today's guest is Caitlin Johnson, gamification strategist, master certified performance coach, and founder of Bold Bird Consulting. With over 15 years of experience and more than 72,000 leaders coached, Caitlin has worked with brands like Marriott, the Ritz-Carlton, and Franklin Covey to help teams perform at their highest level. We call that badass levels. She blends strategic insight with a game designer's mindset to transform the way leaders set goals, engage their teams, and drive results. She's also a triathlete, keynote speaker, and the creator of the upcoming Gamify Your Goals course and book. Now remember, if you love this conversation, which I know you will, be sure to subscribe for weekly leadership tips that can help you unlock your full badass potential. Are you ready? Let's do this. So join me, Angela Gill Nelms, on today's episode of the Badass Leaders Podcast, where I'm joined each week by industry experts for intimate and eye-opening discussions about the challenges and joys facing the leaders of today. Listen in and get ready to scale your company, grow your brand, and unlock your full badass potential.
Let's do it.
Well, first off, thank you for saying yes to being on the Badass Leaders Podcast. I know you probably get a lot of requests, and if you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So thank you for saying yes to us today.
You're welcome. I'm honored to be here. I'm so excited to, shall I say, geek out about the topic of gamification and hear what you know about it and just share a good time.
Let's do it. Okay, we're gonna jump right in, Caitlin. And so
Okay.
I've already recorded the intro and told them a little bit about how badass you are, but I would love for you to pause and tell the audience about yourself from your words and why you're here with us today.
Listen, I am a NASA nerd at heart, okay? And that is like my favorite way to explain who I am. I am one of 5 girls in my family. I am the oldest. I have 2 girls myself. I'm married to my high school sweetheart, and the whole NASA nerd thing, because now people are probably wondering, like, what do you mean by that? But my dad and I shared a love for space and aeronautics, and he had taken me to a kids' science museum when I was about 12 or 13, and I was able to meet an astronaut, and his name was Guy Bluford Jr. He's actually the first African-American astronaut in space, and like star-studded, opportunity to meet him. And he doesn't know this. I've tried to reach out to him a couple times through LinkedIn. He doesn't know this, but he's really crafted the mindset that I've had for my entire career. Because at
you were how old when you met
12 or 13, like early teen.
And I mean, you're just in your early 20s now, so maybe just for a little bit, right?
Listen, the gray hair is not saying early 20s, but that's okay. That's okay. No, yeah. So at the end of his talk, there was another kid in the audience who asked, "How did you know you wanted to become an astronaut?" And what he said is what was life-changing to me. He said, "You know what? I just worked really hard. I found something that I love doing, and then found a way to get paid to do it." And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's my epic mission in life. Find what I'm good at and then find ways to get paid to do it.
Brilliant. Okay, listeners, like that's a mic drop right there. And I've told this story recently because so many times, I know you have this experience. I'm going to go ahead and speak. We just met, but I'm going to go ahead and speak for you. How many times do we hear people say, "Oh, I'm too old for this to go and do this," or "I'm afraid to go into this area. I don't really like what I'm doing, but the market," all of these different excuses we have.
Yes.
And
yes.
I will say that I myself started my career in finance. I was really good at it, but I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And so I quit my job and I went back to school at 29 to get my engineering degree to do what I absolutely love.
Right.
Best decision I ever made. You're never too old to find your passion and figure out a way to get paid for it. So mic drop to you. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. No, and I absolutely love that because it's so easy to find a place in life and be stuck. And there was a very particular moment that I'm thinking of several years ago. I think it was 2019, where I felt stuck. I was in an amazing role, but I had been doing it for over 9 years and just been there, done that. I was kind of tired of training new people to come in and kind of understand everything that I know. I was like, well, I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to grow. And there was this moment I was sitting on the back porch at my house and I was just in a funk. I was cynical. I was thinking all the negative things like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, how many more times do I have to buy these team members Christmas presents, like as we celebrate? Like all of these, mental thoughts. And my daughter, she had come up to the window. She was inside the house and she blew a raspberry on the window and she was just being fun and goofy. But listen, I looked at her and I was like, one day you're going to be in this seat and you're going to have a job that you suck, that sucks, that you hate. And you're going to go in and and I was like, wait a second. I cannot have these thoughts for her. She's way too young. Therefore, I need to figure out my life so that if and when she gets into this mental headspace, I can coach her out of it because I've done it too. And it was in that moment that was the most epically depressing moment that also became like this ray of sunshine and motivation of I need to make a change so that I can show her she can do amazing and brilliant things in her life and doesn't have to choose to be stuck. And
I'm glad you said that just now, just exactly that, because it is a choice. It is a choice to be stuck. And when you really, if you want to read super motivational books and you see people and you think, wow, how do they get to where they're at now? I'm sure they were just super lucky all through their life. That's typically not the case.
Right.
It is someone who maybe what they did was maybe they did this like side hustle until they built up what they really wanted to do. So they were still responsible, paying their bills, whatever it was. But it is a choice to stay in a situation where you are miserable.
It is. And oh gosh, I think that's brutal truth number one, right? When you can actually, say to yourself like, oh my gosh, yeah, I have been making this choice. That sucks to have to recognize that, but then it's so empowering because then, well, what are you going to do? But then I will say that's probably brutal truth number two, which is like, what do I do? It's so daunting.
Yes.
How do you create the next thing? And that's where my background in gamification comes in, because in that moment in 2019, I've been in this gamification world, and just for your audience, it's a fancy way of saying turning something into a game that wasn't already a game. And there's a psychology behind how we play games. There's design elements. I mean, think about the video game world and how much money they make in just creating fun environments.
I have no idea what that is, by the way.
I couldn't rattle it off either, but it's definitely millions, if not billions of dollars. I mean, Nintendo's been around for a really long time. So let's just think about Nintendo. But anyways, when I had made the decision, all right, I'm going to make a change. I'll tell you, in 3 months, I found another job. And there's some mastery brilliance around a 90-day time frame. And if you can gamify whatever objective it is that you're looking to do in your life, in 90 days, you will see a huge impact. And so I gamified my strategy. I've gamified being unemployed during the pandemic. I gamify my business development. And so I think about, how do I prefer to play games? I think of that psychology, and then I start to build out the structure to, in some ways, motivate me and then continue to inspire me to gain traction, because it's hard to do new things. It's hard to overcome the imposter. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so we're gonna learn a little bit about young Caitlin then. So were you a gamer growing up? And if so, you have to share the name of the very first console you had and maybe your favorite game.
Listen, I'm the worst with this because no, I wasn't a video gamer growing up.
Gosh!
Yeah.
I wasn't
Isn't that
either.
bizarre?
Well,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but
No?
so
Okay.
I also wasn't. I will tell you, we had an Atari.
Okay.
And we had, what was the space game? I mean, I turned 50 this
Oh.
year, so whatever that's Galaxy or
Galactic.
Galactica.
Listen to us.
I don't know. Right?
Someone who's listening, put it in the chat or like put it on YouTube.
Exactly. And say
Oh.
these crazy women are talking about gamification and they don't even know that. It was like
Yeah.
Battlestar Galactica something. I don't know. Anyways, Pac-Man, that kind of stuff, right? And I just, I didn't grow up with money. All my friends had the Super Mario Brothers and that
Yes.
kind of stuff, but I never had any of that kind of stuff. I actually had no idea what gamification really was until I started building my first software company. And I experienced another software that did it. And I was suddenly, my change management in that other software amped up the speed so much because of the gamification that
Yes.
then when we were building Florence Healthcare, which was document management for clinical research. I mean, there's nothing sexy about document management. To be clear, advancing cure is very sexy. Document
Yes.
management, not so
Not
much,
so
right?
much.
And I was talking to the developers and I'm like, how can we gamify this? How can we make it so that when a doctor signs a document, he gets a big congratulations and something fun. So he feels like he's now beating his competitors and this kind of stuff.
Yes.
So tell me then, you didn't start, you weren't a gamer, it wasn't in it. How did you get into the science of it and realizing it was a passion you wanted to do?
Yeah, that's a great story. So, yeah, first of all, I do have to make fun of myself because I was definitely that video gamer that would go play at a friend's house and then was like physically jumping up and down with the console in my hand to try to make Mario jump because I just couldn't figure out the buttons. Like, so that was me. It was in 2014. So to answer your question, how did I get involved with gamification? 2014, I was working at Marriott International for a brilliant leader. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us, just passed away way too early, too soon in his 50s. He asked a question. He said, how can we tap into the hearts and minds of our hourly associates? And can we use games to do it?
Wow.
And I was blown away. That was the first time I heard change management language, tapping into the hearts and minds. And at that point, he had said gamification. Actually, my leader I was reporting into told me, hey, I'm going to bring you into this gamification project. And I was like, what the what is this word? That sounds like a color of the week. Like, this isn't going to work. You want us to play games at work? I was very much not in that mindset. I'm very type A. I wanted to climb the ladder as quickly as I could. I'm not going to be playing games. But when he was talking about hearts and minds, I was like, wait a minute. That is something I can sink my teeth into and figure this out. So now I'm curious. What do we do? How do I learn about games and tapping into hearts and minds? And that's when I started just diving down all rabbit holes I could find. You really couldn't find much in 2014. There weren't a whole lot of books. I was Pinteresting, what does gamification look like? It was interesting. We were working with a software developer that hadn't done it quite yet either. So we were working together and collaborating. They put together a environment that I thought was way too corporate and said something. Actually, that leader called me out at the end of a conference call, like, Caitlin, what do you think about this? And I was new to the team, so I wasn't really going to say anything quite yet. And thank goodness this was before cameras on virtual calls because it was just a web conference. And my face turned so red because he was a leader that when he asked a question, he truly wanted to know what you had to say. You could hear it in his voice. And 5 minutes left to the call, he's like, Caitlin, what do you think about this gamified software? And I was like, I do not love it. I do not want to play this game. It just looks really corporate. And I can't just say that and like end the call, but that's what happened in my life. So I just went on Pinterest and figured out what would gamification look like to me. and I created this rudimentary environment that was very retro, like lime green colors, like what I remember growing up with, and put it in a PowerPoint. And I was like, this is what I would want to play. And he loved it. And he asked the developers to rebuild.
That is amazing. I love that. And so that timeline makes sense because we started building Florence Healthcare in 2015. And so this was all, the mindset of this was all new. And so for listeners, those of you who think we're talking about the startup culture with ping pong tables in the game room, that is not what we're talking about here. No, it is actually accomplishing goals and objectives and things, and adding a gamification factor to it to drive the enthusiasm to do it, and the competitiveness, and even, just upping your level for yourself or something of that nature. So it's very different than those ping pong table components. So then you presented this. You're new to the company. He's asked you this, and kudos to him for being an authentic leader who asked a question he really wanted to hear the answer to it.
Yes.
And so
I was his target audience age range, right? Like at that point in time. What do you think? Would you play this game? And I'm like,
you're like, no.
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, I wouldn't. Okay. Yeah. And so you created this, and then you presented it, and obviously they adopted it. What was so this was your very first time ever doing gamification. So what would you say the impact of the success of it was on the project, or what the actual goal was?
Well, we beta tested it. It was a success, and we pressed repeat on it several other times, to the point where 70,000 leaders within Marriott International were playing a game to be able to increase the guest satisfaction during the summer months. The summer months were critical because our scores would dip a little bit during the summer months because we were used to business travelers throughout the predominant year. And then our families would come in during the summer months. And so when you think about it, how you care for a family versus a business traveler is very different. And so we had to change how we were interacting with our guests. And so the game was, how do we increase guest satisfaction during the summer months compared to the same time last year? Can we be better? And we beat ourselves, beat our goals and our numbers, which we all did. So 70,000 leaders played, and we were looking for 2% points as breakthrough. Can we collectively increase our guest satisfaction scores 2% points over last year? And we got a 2.6.
Wow.
And so when we were like, oh my gosh, we're gaining traction here. So we kept playing these corporate, I don't want to say corporate games. That makes it sound so boring. I mean, we were going after epic missions. We were trying to create fantastic vacations for people. Like, that was the end of the game for us, really, is how do we make your stay with us memorable so that you will tell other people about it? What do I, as an hourly front desk person, need to do to make that impact? And then share with the company through a chat feature that we created, through badges that we were awarding, through just fun little mini side quests of take a picture of yourself doing, a special action for a guest. So we made it so much fun.
Well, it makes me think about, so we're both triathletes, and you know the phrase that we have, if your Garmin didn't log it, or if it's not on Strava, so people can actually see it doesn't count.
That's right.
Right? Exactly. And so that whole mindset of really getting everyone engaged, and really one of the things you said a moment ago was something about maybe an epic mission, right? Mm-hmm. People love to be engaged in the same mission, especially if you can make it fun and add some competition to it.
100%. Yeah, I have a lot of people, obviously, you can imagine at this time I've been using gamification strategies for over 10 years. And I have people say like, oh, what badges would you recommend that I, put in this software or whatever? I'm like, well, wait, hold on. Why do you want to badge it? Tell me, what are you up to? What are you doing? If there isn't a strong reason why or purpose or what I call an epic mission, then you're not going to get the behavior change or the excitement or the involvement from whoever your target audience is. That's one of the number one things video game designers ask is, what is the epic mission of this game? Why would people play? And why would they come back? Think about it.
I love that. Yeah,
yeah,
the epic mission. People love to be a part of an epic mission. I mean, that's why
100%.
the movies that have those type of screenplays or whatever are written in, why they're so popular.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so this was Bold Leadership 10 years ago. So I want to hear a little bit of a dichotomy between your vision on bold leadership, what it meant to you then, and really what it means to you today in 2025 in the business landscape.
That's such a creative question. I think about it and I don't categorize myself really as bold, but yet I'm confident in the direction that I want to go. This is actually part of my favorite quote, which is Henry David Thoreau, go confidently in the direction of your dreams, live the life you always imagined. And I think between that and then Guy Bluford Jr.'s question of find something you're good at doing and then get paid to do it, I think maybe those were my epic missions in life, and that creates the boldness for me. I wouldn't say I'm going to like fly out of an airplane, and skydive like that. That's a whole different level of bold and courageous. I don't know. It sounds maybe so meek and humble. At least I hope it comes across that way. I just want to be awesome. I just want to have.
You just want to be badass.
I just want to be a badass. I just want to be a badass in my own way and
Yes.
make an impact. And I have found that I love doing that through game design and motivation and change management. And, yellow is my favorite color. I have these yellow Converse shoes that I wear. And it's part of my brand. I show up to trainings, I show up to workshops in these yellow shoes. And of course, people ask me, well, why yellow? Why are you, what's the story? Selfishly, it's because it reminds me, this brings me back to Mr. Rogers days, right? Like growing up watching Mr. Rogers and he's changing his shoes when he comes into the house. But for me, it's the reminder that as soon as I put these shoes on, I'm on stage and I'm living my dream. And I want other people to be able to feel what it feels like to become unstuck and get creative, create things in your life and make an impact. So that's
I love that.
That's my
I love
hope.
the idea of a token to be something that reminds you this is what our focus is right now. Okay, it's like game freaking on. This is what we're doing.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Okay, so you talk a lot about a gamer's mindset. What does that actually look like in the real world for a leader trying to hit ambitious goals without managing while managing the daily chaos? Like, what does that gamer's mindset really look like?
Yeah, it's all about turning our mindsets around of not being afraid to fail. So of course we know, we only grow through learning and, we have I feel like we push through failure. But the gamer's mindset is about creatively problem solving and then learning as we go. If you think about playing Super Mario, you're moving your character along the brick wall and then it falls and you go back to, the starting point and you try again. You've learned something. You've learned you should jump sooner, faster, higher, whatever the case may be. So it's thinking about how can I learn as if I was playing my favorite video game and not be so hard on myself as I'm learning? How can I conquer the imposter in a fun way?
Oh, actually, there you go. I love that. And not be so hard on myself when I'm learning. One of the phrases that I love, and I got this from what was the name of the podcast? Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. It was a podcast that I started listening to before I started doing podcasting. The Motivated Mind. Okay. And he used to say constantly, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. And now it's one of my favorite phrases. And I think when I think about those games, for example, in Super Mario, like the first time you're playing, you're in chapter 1. You're looking at the landscape, testing things out. And then you say, hey, I'm going to do this experiment by pressing this button and hoping I get it there. And then that experiment is a failure. And so really the growth mindset or the gamer's mindset
That's right.
is, okay, that experiment didn't work. Now let's try this version of it and see what happens. And iterating to a speed where now suddenly you're on chapter 2 or 5 or 10 or whatever it is you're working towards.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So it's the foundational element of a growth mindset. But then I feel like it goes a level deeper where you have the persistence to keep trying, because people who, love games, like you don't just give up after the first failure. You're like, oh, come on, let me try again. So you usually try a couple more times before maybe you're exhausted and need to take a break. Like it's important to take a break. So you've got this creative mindset of a growth mindset of how can I learn as I'm moving forward? How can I be persistent? And then how can I collaborate with other people? Because you can only get so far alone. So then I think about other game dynamics where you do need other players to be able to get to unlock other levels, because you've got a team dynamic. So it's not only how can I conquer the growth mindset and apply it into my life, how can I be persistent and keep learning, but then also how can I collaborate with others, because that's where massive impact really happens, when you get 2 or 3 people who are passionate about the same things together in the same room working on something. That's where like the innovative minds just unlock brilliance.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. So then can you give us an example of a client where you introduced this idea to them and you were able to see a change in their personality, their team, their culture, their goals, or something of that nature?
Yeah, 100%. So this was actually when I was still side hustling. I was working at Lowe's Home Improvement, and I call it my bridge job, right? It was helping me get from one place in my life to another. It was the first role I was able to get after being unemployed because of the pandemic. And we were doing some really cool things. I was talking with the director of talent acquisition. And actually, this is a really interesting story because I accidentally stepped on his toes. Apparently I am just a bold person, and I was trying to get on the VP of HR's call. And I was like, we were working remote. I don't know who's who. I was supposed to work through the director of talent acquisition, and I didn't know that yet. So I got my hand slapped a little, but I called him and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Here was what I was trying to do. Can we collaborate going forward? Just help me out. I'm trying to figure some things out. He's like, no worries. Not a problem at all. And then he got really curious. He's like, well, what are you doing with us? Like, what's your role? And tell me about you. And so I told him what I was working on at that moment within Lowe's, and then told him about my background with gamification. And he's like, oh, I want that. And I was also telling him I was building out a coaching program to gamify your career path. And he's like, how do I work with you on that? And at this point I was like, look, listen, if we want to have conversations after office hours, because I didn't want it to make it seem like I was side hustling on the clock. I was like, I'll be happy to coach you through it. You could be my first beta tester.
Love this.
Yeah. So he went through all of my programming, and in less than a year, he became a VP at another organization. Because that was actually his epic mission. He's like, I want to become a VP. And I'm like, well, let's see what we can make happen. Let's figure out who you are. Let's level up your character. Let's find out what talents or strengths or skills do you need that maybe you don't have right now that you need for that next level. And he messaged me. Actually, and then once he was in role at the VP, he messaged me 1 year later and he said, Caitlin, I just got nominated as like the best leader of the year. And it's never gone to like a 1 year in role person before.
Wow.
And he gave me the credit. I was like, oh, wow, that's a lot of credit. Thank you. I was like, no, like you did so much of that. But, maybe with a little bit more confidence as he was leveling up and whatnot. So it was really kind of him to send me that message a year later.
Which I want to say a couple things to that. One, we as human, especially as busy executives, do not, in my opinion, slow down enough to send those messages to let people know that. And those messages are game changers for us as well. I recently had an employee that I mentored years ago send me a LinkedIn message. And she was basically like, you completely changed my career, completely changed my life. And I was in tears. I just paused and they all, those messages always come when you're having a hard day or you're tired or you're exhausted, right? They never come when you're high on life. I swear there is this karma in the universe that says.
It's so true.
I want to encourage listeners, seriously, pause and do that. And then the other thing I want to say is I'm totally stealing this from my personal coach. So anyone who's listening to this is one of my individuals I'm doing personal coaching. When you see added to your plan, what is your epic mission? You can tell Caitlin Johnson it's all because of her.
Yeah, we've got to have that true north in life. You know what? I also want to say, I firmly believe in a concept that the Japanese I give Japanese credit for. It's called Ikigai, and it stands for reason for being. And it's very similar to what is that true north? What is that epic mission? But what I love about the Japanese version is that they don't believe you have just one epic mission or reason for being. It grows with you as you grow in life. So as I'm coaching other people too, it's what is your epic mission today? What does that look like? And then once you reach it, here's the thing, like it's very uncomfortable until you get there. And then once you get to that epic mission, it starts to become your comfort zone.
Right.
And then, once you're in your comfort zone after a while, you're like, okay, now what? So you have to come up with the next epic mission. It's very much like leveling up in video games.
I love this. Okay. So we already mentioned that you've coached tens of thousands of leaders, which I love. I was in the intro when I was listing that number. I was like, wow, that is a lot. Okay. But so speaking of this and getting your comfort zone and wanting to level up, or also when we were talking earlier about having the courage just to even jump and make a change, like a career transition change. Okay. What do you see as the most common roadblock that they face? And when you see that roadblock, what's the first shift you help them make to overcome it?
I think the first roadblock that I see trends is they just don't know what to do next. It's the uncertainty. It's the massive imposter syndrome feeling that kicks in at this point of like, well, but what if I can't do something? And it's just so much uncertainty. And that's where I talk about, going back to gaming language. Okay, we're going to create a streak on the way towards new habits.
Nice.
Because think about habits. We all feel like habit failures because habits are so hard to create and they're so hard to break.
Right.
But when you're creating something new, creative problem solving, and it's not a habit yet, keep a streak of consistent action on your way towards creating new habits. So we break it down into these little things that you could do and keep a streak of action. So you're building trust with yourself that you can do new and different and hard things. And then once you see that traction, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. And it's the momentum that builds you further into creating that habit. And then when it comes to creating and setting new goals, I break it down into 90-day objectives with them of what could you do in this next season. And when we talk about the season, I'm like, I want you to open your calendar. Like, what season are we in? Like, let's say it's January, February, March. Okay, so what's going to take place in January, February, and March that's going to get in your way? What are the roadblocks? Do you have any family vacations or, things? Okay, we're going to plan around them and incorporate them, because one of the things that happens when we set goals for ourselves is we create them in vacuums. We don't think about all of the pop-up challenges that might come up. So I try to help people get ahead of those challenges so we can incorporate them into their game plan so they know what to expect, or even debunking some of the things of like, well, I've tried that and it didn't work. Well, talk to me about what didn't work. Why not? Can we create a contingency plan around that so that we can level up and keep moving forward? So going back to your ultimate question, it's what prevents people from taking their action. It's the uncertainty. It's feeling scared of, I don't think I have what it takes. And so when you break it down into smaller objectives and create streaks, and then you create 90-day objectives looking at what does real life look like within these next 90 days? I do the same thing with triathlon training. Like think about like you're mapping out your training plan and then I'm like, well, wait, I'm going on a vacation that week. So instead of a 12-week training plan, I should make it 13. Account for the fact that I've got a 0 week of training. So
well,
yeah,
and also one of the
down.
things I was thinking about for your streaks is the mindset of, okay, if you now have a 7-day streak of something, okay, and then something happens and you break the streak. I love having the mindset of pausing and saying, okay, that's okay. Because I did it for 7 days before. Now my goal is to level up.
Yes.
And now beat my 7-day streak and get to 14 days or get to whatever. Because you have the confidence that you've done it for this period. So if you've done it for this period, now make it a competition for yourself to do it for, 20% more or 20% longer or something like that. So you keep mentioning, this is maybe the third time you've mentioned 90 days.
Yes.
Oh, you're like, what did I?
Yeah, I know. What did I say?
Yeah, exactly. 90 days as a trigger point. Now, what is the magic around 90 days?
Honestly, I don't know. I there's been times where I'm like, man, how do I hire a research team to figure out why 90 days seems to work? But of the 10 years that I've been building and designing games, 90 days seems to be the sweet spot. Around 60 days, you will start seeing the traction, but 90 is where you're going to get like the maximum benefit. And then for some reason, after 90 days, we start to outsmart ourselves. We're like, well, I don't know. Like it just, the traction doesn't work anymore. I think what I've also seen is a new baseline of performance has been created. And so we need to challenge ourselves to just turn the dial up a little bit more into the next 90 days. Or if we're not seeing the traction that we wanted, we have to pause and ask ourselves, is this the right game to be playing?
Right.
Should I retire? Yes. Should I retire this 90-day quest and go after something else? So a couple things that I've noticed from a timing perspective. First 7 days are critical. Keep that streak. But we also, because we're starting something new, feel really motivated. So sometimes the first 7 days aren't that challenging. What's the next challenging time frame is 21 days. And of course, there's a lot of research out there that says 21 days it takes to build a habit. But there's also other research that debunks that. And it says it could take 60, it could take 90, it could take a year. What I have seen is that it takes 21 days to build a new routine. It's a routine that is now more in place in your mind, in your weekly actions. You still have to think about doing that thing. So it's not a subconscious habit, but it's not so hard to remember to do it. It's more of a routine. So you really got to push through those first 21 days to get it starting to get integrated into your life. And then work towards 90 days to see the maximum impact.
I love this. And I was thinking about a couple of things with the 90 days, right? You know how I said earlier, one of my favorite things when I'm working with teams is to say, we're going to do this experiment and test this out. And there's something about knowing it's an idea of an experiment and we're going to test something out and then we're going to evaluate it. It seems less daunting to them because it's less committal, because then they still have the opportunity to evaluate it and say, okay, that didn't work. I think a little bit also of the 90 days, because 90 days to me, when I hear that, it doesn't seem, it's not forever. It's not, I'm committing the next 5 years to this, which just the minute I just now, like literally, Caitlin, when I just said 5 years, I cringed too. I was almost
Deep
like
breath.
I felt this headache. Yes. I felt all this weight on my chest. And I love the body reaction to things and noticing your reaction, because when I said 5 years just now, I felt a headache. I felt pressure on my chest. I was like, I can't
daunting.
even breathe right now. But when I say 90 days, 90 days is nothing. It literally is nothing. So I love that. Okay, so one of the things we're really big about with the AGN group is this mindset of managers versus leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And so first off, tell me what you believe the difference is between a manager and a leader is. And if someone desires to grow into being a leader, what are some of the steps that you help them move through to be able to accomplish that?
Oh, that's a great question. I almost don't even want to give what my definition is because there's going to be so many people that are like, no, I don't agree with that. Gosh, can't we just talk?
That's why it's yours and not theirs.
Yeah, it's true. But can't we just talk about a person wanting to make an impact and help other people grow? Like that's where I see a quote unquote leader is you are at a headspace where you've been there, done that. You've gotten promoted and you're in that next space. And your role now is to help others follow and build and coach others. So regardless if you want to call it a leader or a manager or whatever, it is somebody in a position where you are other people are behind you and you're needing to kind of guide them and coach them forwards.
Yeah, I love that. I
think
of it. Yes, I think of it a lot of managers as well, accomplishing like a set of tasks or obstacles or something in that and making sure everyone accomplishes these. And a leader, exactly. You're building the people around you. You're building the mission. You're building the vision. You're engaging and getting other people to join in on that mission, to be a part of that overall growth.
Yes. And with that comes a different mindset. It's a different mindset of not just getting things done and checking the box, but it's a getting things done through other people. So it brings out that collaboration. And this is where I love games again as well, right? So now you can create a game where you as a leader are designing the rules of play. What does success look like? And really thinking about, do you have an idea of what success looks like? Think about how many times new initiatives have been launched and the person leading it hasn't clearly understood what outcomes are for that initiative. So if you don't know, how are you going to have others lead and follow and play that game? So really thinking through the strategy of what is the epic mission or vision you have for you and your team? What does it look like to play and to win and be successful? And what does it not look like? Now you're creating the rules of play of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And then from there, you're just starting incorporating having a little bit of fun and recognition. Angela, you had said it earlier. We do not, or excuse me, I'm getting so excited. We do not recognize good work enough. We're right there, Johnny on the spot when things are not going well. But gameplay reinforces positive reinforcement. And so thinking about how can I find people doing good and celebrate them for that. So when I'm coaching leaders into becoming that leader who's coaching others, it's the mindset of, in my mind, games. How do we creatively solve problems together as a team and be persistent and learn along the way? Because I will also say many leaders are in a position where they have never led whatever project or task it is. They've never done it before.
Themselves, yes.
Yes. They've never done it themselves. So that can feel very vulnerable. The imposter kicks in again. But again, if you frame it as a experiment or as a challenge that we're going to figure out together, the dynamic changes. And people are like,
that's
yeah,
powerful.
How do I help is more now the question.
Yes. I was thinking of an example as well when you turn something into a game. So in my day job, I run this program at Georgia Tech and Emory, and I'm working to hire an associate director through Georgia Tech. And if you've ever tried to do hiring through an academic institution, right, exactly. And so at one point, she and I were getting super frustrated. And I said, okay, you know what I think we're going to have to do is we don't have any control over this. So we're just going to turn it into a game. Like, let's make bets on when we get things. Let's make bets on when these, and then we're going to laugh when these things happen. And this is going to be a great story to tell in the end. And the moment we shifted the problem and the experience out of basically a trauma mindset or a victim mindset into a game mindset, everything changed, right? Actually, the biggest thing that changed was the stress level, and the impact it was having in those situations went down.
Isn't that so fascinating?
Yeah, it's super cool. So can you share an example of when you've helped shift this mindset of really teaching and coaching some of the people that you work with to become leaders and bring them along, and the impact, maybe the change that you saw in them as a human or their team or the culture?
Yeah, so I think about an individual who I've been coaching for almost 2 years now, and just all around the mindset of effectively leading and having the difficult conversations and delegation and getting comfortable with all of those aspects of leadership. And she leads a group of sales leaders, and they weren't exactly performing in the way that they needed to. But I pushed against it too, because I'm like, is it really them, or is it just the new goal and the new ambition, or maybe just the new stress of the economy and yesterday's numbers are not enough? We need new numbers. And so we've got to coach up the team to perform and truly level up. And so helping her understand, because she was getting in the weeds again. And I get it. Like, sometimes it's okay for you to jump in with the team and do the same things that the team is doing, because you're showing that camaraderie and team level. But at the same time, you're a leader and you need to coach those to do it. You can't keep taking over. So it's the mindset of, remember, you're not to be solving the problem. You're supposed to be coaching the people through solving the problem and helping them figure it out. So how do we present this as a challenge? And I like your word of an experiment, to be able to figure out, how can we still be successful given the constraints that we have today? And even that starts to phrase things so completely different, right? And then I was like, and how can you turn it into a game? And she's like, wait, what do you mean? Because she's like, I do love sports. And, I was highly athletic, as a young person growing up. So I'm very competitive. How would we turn this into a game? And usually sales dynamics, that's default, like bring in the most revenue. It's easy to turn those aspects into a game, right? I was like, no, I want you to think deeper. What are the core behaviors that this team needs to be successful? Break it down. What are those things? And she's like, well, really, I need them to do X, Y, and Z consistently in order to bring in the revenue. I'm like, then those items that they need to do consistently, that's what we're going to craft our game around. Because that's what's going to help them create ongoing and lasting success. Not this one and done, like I just sealed one deal, so now I'm at the top of the leaderboard and I win. No, I want continual, sustained, ongoing momentum, which means we need to work on building the behaviors of success. And so from there, she was just like, oh my gosh, you mean it's just not who has the highest revenue number? And I'm like, no, it's the behaviors, and then you will get the revenue numbers.
Well, and I think too, it's just, we've mentioned, both of us mentioned several times, the difference and the impact of a shift in mindset, and taking something that may appear to some team members as chores or laborious or all of these things, and turning it into something fun and something that is now challenging, that you can then, showcase somehow how you've reached this new level of something, I think is just amazing. And I think that also is being creative in a spirit of figuring out how to allow your team members to realize life should be fun, and the things that we're doing should be fun. Like, I don't know why. I just think that at some point we're growing up, right? And we go to college and we start our job and we suddenly think that we have our work time and our fun play time. But going back to your realization that you had when you did your career shift, right? What if your work time can also be your fun playtime? And what if you as a leader can use the framework and the stuff that you're doing to create that. So can you tell us a little bit about what your process and and also I know you're writing a program, a course, and a book on this, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
let's dig into all of that. What does this look like as you're building this out with teams?
Okay, so, oh gosh, there's so many places I could go. First and foremost, it goes back to identifying what is the epic mission. So what is it that we as a team are going to contribute to the organization? What is the organization contributing to the world? That ripple effect. So really drilling down to what is the most important thing that we want to go after, that epic mission. Then we start to break down, okay, what are the rules of play? What does it look like? What does success look like? And then I start asking some of those questions around the behaviors. For any maybe engineering nerd out there, root cause analysis. Like I coach people through, right? Like, no, it's not just revenue. It's something else. Like, and I keep going deeper and deeper. Like, why is that important? Why would we want our team to be like this?
Too.
Yes, the 5 whys. Yeah, exactly. So, going back to that to kind of build out the structure of how we're going to play. So once we get that strategy, essentially, and so what I also like about gamification is that it demystifies some of the corporate processes. Like when you are a leader who needs to come up with a strategy, like that feels so scary. Like, oh, what's my strategy going to be? But if you were to just change it and say, what's the epic mission? What that I want our team to accomplish by the end of this year? And how do we get there? What does Q1, 90 days, what does Q1's mission look like? What does Q2's mission look like? Break it down to smaller segments. Then your strategy starts to show itself. And now you've just built a roadmap of here's what, the finish line looks like at the end of the year. And then here are my key milestones at each quarter. Hopefully that's where our team will go. But then here's the thing. The team is going to help us identify if we're on the right track or not, because maybe we've never done it before, so we'll adjust as we go. So nothing has to be set in stone. So helping people understand that mentality of agility is key to their plan is important as well. I also help people understand the psychology behind gameplays, because this is where some leaders are like, oh yeah, I'm going to have a leaderboard, or I'm going to throw a badge on there. And I'm like, okay, yes. However, let's make sure we understand the dynamics of your team and how they're motivated. So there are 4 main ways people play games. Now, giving credit where credit is due, Richard Bartle in 1996 came up with these 4 game player personas. And so I'm going to share them and explain a little bit about them. So the first, he calls a killer, which I don't love that language. I like to call it a dominator. So if you think about a killer or a dominator, these are those super competitive people who are like, please, not even please, just get out of my way. I will be first. They love competition. So having a leaderboard and, putting their name at the top, they want to be at the top, will motivate them. An achiever is another game player type. So the achiever is all around the accomplishments. So if there's multiple badges to be collected, if there's points to be collected, they also do like to be on the leaderboard as well. An explorer understands how to play, but it's not about finishing the game. It's about uncovering and discovering newness along the way. So they may be that player that's that's following along with everybody else, and then they go rogue. You're like, wait, where'd John go? He uncovered something new that's going to help you win even better. So creating opportunities for these explorers to push the buttons, ask questions of, well, what if we didn't do it this way and we did it another way? Could we get progress even more so? So creating some space for creativity for an explorer. The 4th player is a connector. Richard Bartle calls it a socializer. To me, it's a connector. These are the people who don't need to win and have their name on the leaderboard. They prefer to win with other people. Like they feel proud and they feel progress if other people can win. So having team collaborative.
The dominator, the achiever, the explorer, and the connector.
Correct. Yes. And so when you're thinking, yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking about something, and I don't know about the dominator part, but at least the other 3 pieces, I think there's a lot of value in having people on your team that fit in each of those three categories because they bring a different level of insight and exploration and creativity and curiosity into what you're building just based on what their nature is.
100%. And with the dominator, because you're like, not so sure. The dominator is going to have the most efficient and effective plan straight out of the gate. It may not be the right plan. We don't quite know if it's going to be the right plan or not, right? But think about this. Understanding who is that super competitive person will be helpful because you can ask them questions like, what would you recommend is the first thing we try? Because they're already thinking about how we're going to win. Now, they'll also, though, butt heads with the connector who's chit-chatting with some of the other team members.
And probably the explorer, too.
Yes, and definitely explorer, because for a dominator, they may know the straightest path. Like in their mind, it's clear as day, this is the way we need to go. But then an explorer, to your point, may be like, well, I see that path, but what if we did it in this other way? And as I'm exploring this other way, like, oh my gosh, wait, I thought of a different way. And they're very innovative. So understanding that people play games differently and will try to win in different methods will help your team dynamics as well. Because once you start getting some people butting heads, you can say like, oh, that's just my dominator coming out. Let me turn it down a little bit and allow the explorer to pop up. What I will also say, Angela, is that different environments trigger these different game player personas inside of us. So we'll have a dominant player, but we can do and become all four of these in different environments.
Oh, this is fascinating. It makes me think a little bit about, have you ever done the Working Genius personality assessments? It's my favorite of all of them because I also think it encourages us to kind of, this is not the correct phrase, but kind of step back and give slack to someone who works different than us. And I mean, that's not I don't know what I'm really trying, but what I'm trying to say is that I've been in an instance where I'm working with team members and I'm really frustrated because this one individual is in this role and they're not reaching whatever level of success I know they can reach. And I get frustrated, right? Because I'm a leader and I want to see them be the best level of success they possibly can. Okay. And then I had an instance, I had this happen at my previous company where I was getting really frustrated with this one team member. And then I had everyone do their Working Genius. And then suddenly I realized, oh, wait, this individual's Working Genius categories are completely different from the role that he is playing. Maybe that role he's playing in the team is not the right role for him to be his. And instead, he's really big in these other areas. What would it look like if we work towards career growth in those areas so he can shine and actually love what he's doing?
Yes. Yeah. And when I coach individuals and then we identify which game player is their preference, we dissect it a little bit. Like I've worked with actually many of the people that I coach tend to be explorers. And I don't know if it's because I'm more of the achiever.
I'm an achiever. I was already thinking I'm definitely an achiever.
Oh, heck yeah. Like if both of us are triathletes, like that's 100% achievement. It's achievement in running, achievement in biking, achievement in swimming. I want all those freaking badges. And I was laughing. Both of us were laughing about it. If it's not on Strava, if it's not on Garmin, it doesn't count. Like I have a yellow Garmin watch. And I want all of the stupid digital badges on this darn watch, and I'm like, I'm not even telling people that I'm getting these badges, but I want them.
I want them in Audible because I love listening to books. Yes. And suddenly I realized that you have these things in Audible. And then a little bit of my Explorer came out because then I was like, wait, what does this mean? Okay, well, wait, what is that? What other options do I have? Okay, never mind. I'm going to focus on documentaries now because there's
one over there. Yes. See, now you just demonstrated the achiever and the explorer and the different environment that kicks in, and which player type comes in. So I'm starting to see some synergy between how explorers and connectors can collaborate and partner with the dominators and the achievers, right? And so it seems to me, I've been noticing this trend that most leaders have explorer tendencies that come to me that want to understand how to gamify their whatever objective, goals, their careers, whatever the case may be. And so I help them also understand that if you, and I love to explain it as dials, turning it up and down. If you're too strong of an explorer, this really goes with any of the game player personas. If you're too strong in that area, it can come across as abrasive to somebody else. And so understanding when
Right.
to turn it down. So for an explorer, if you're too strong in that exploration, you might come across as a little wishy-washy. Like you're not getting things done because
Yes.
you're so curious about, well, I'm 90% done with that project and now I'm bored, so I want to go do something else. So helping people understand that that's maybe preventing them from achieving what they want. It's like you've got to get to that last 10%, then move on. Or maybe they just ask a ton of questions. And to a dominator, it feels like they're difficult. Like, stop asking questions. Let's go. Right? So prefacing, hey, I just have a couple more questions so I can really understand what's going on. Is now a good time to ask you so that I can be on board, right? Instead of maybe having the perception of being difficult because you're asking so many questions. So again, like understanding just a little bit about the personality of your game player persona can help you play differently when you're collaborating with others.
Okay, so now you just touched on one of my favorite topics, which is
Okay.
conflict resolution. I want to write a book one day on conflict resolution. I love healthy conflict so much. I'm so not afraid of it at all. I will sit down and have really healthy conversations with people and bring all of the challenges that we have, and let's talk and walk through them. And I do realize there are very few people who love conflict like that.
Yeah.
And I think you just started talking about conflict. So can you talk about how you resolve conflict, both personally and professionally, and coach others to do that using your methodology?
So first, it's awareness. It's what's your preference? How are you wanting to win this conversation? If you are that connector, you don't want to win. You're like, whatever, honey, or whoever it is you're working with, right? Like, we'll do it your way. And so you may find that you feel like a doormat because you're easily giving in because that will mean we win together. But you're not winning together. You gave that other person the win. So having them think about it from a different mentality of, well, how can we maybe achieve? What is it that you need to achieve in this to feel successful? What could that look like? How can you explore some options and not be 100% connector, not have your dial turned up all the way? And it's okay to have it there because you want to win, but don't give it all away, right? Or the dominator, like, oh my gosh, you're just asking for what you want in the conversation. Turn it down a little bit. Be curious. Ask some questions. Be the explorer. What does the other person need in this conversation in order to win, or in this conflict in order to win? So being careful not to compromise, because if we compromise, somebody's losing or we're both losing. So how do we find the equal balance win? By touching a little bit into the dominator, touching a little bit into the achiever, thinking about how can we connect deeper together and maybe explore an option that we didn't even think about, but only are now touching on because we were bold enough to ask for what we need in the conversation.
Now you're back to your bold leadership we were talking about at the beginning.
Yes.
I love that. And I think, too, just thinking a lot about having these different traits within yourself and utilizing them in scenarios that they're most applicable for. Because I do think there are times when I, as a individual, Angela, would using a dominator perspective on, I love the phrase, like, we're not building a baby grand piano in this instance, like we don't let, Voltaire, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. There are instances where that's applicable, and it is, let's get to this path because that, and then there are other instances where I know for myself, I had an instance leading at Florence Healthcare where I was so busy doing other things that I would go into a meeting and my goal is just to get everyone to do the thing and make the decision and then move to the next thing.
Yeah.
And I realized after people were like, Angela, you're kind of being a bitch. It's my podcast, so I can say that.
Yeah.
And then I realized that in those instances, I was losing out by not bringing the connector, because the solutions we were coming to, while we might get to that solution faster, it absolutely was not the best solution long term.
Yeah, I think about actually quite a few things with my husband and I and our dynamics. He's default explorer and I'm default achiever. And we both have dominator. We both have dominators that come out too. And there's many times, actually really recently, where I am looking at how often I'm playing my achiever card. And could I actually pause and instead of just getting it done, checking the box, moving on, completing the objective, could I actually create some space for, but does it have to be that way? And he's got the explorer. He's very spontaneous. I'm very like pre-planned, and being able to balance that is delicate. So at times, no, we don't have time to be spontaneous. We have to have a pre-planned plan, right? But we don't always have to. And so there are times when I ask myself, wait, is my achiever turned up too much right now? Could I benefit? Could this situation we're both in benefit from a little bit more exploration, a little bit more fun, a little bit more curiosity to be able to get to our next level together?
So, and this is my favorite part about being a podcast host and listening to podcasts, because taking away, it's once again, the words we choose to use in these situations are so powerful. And now I'm hoping that the listeners, because I've already learned some new words, I know I'm going to be thinking about those. And it also gives you the moment to give yourself like a little room and space for growth, because then I think, oh, wait, now I want to think. Now it's a challenge to me because I love challenges, right? Now it's going to be a challenge to me. I'm going to send you a message soon.
Please do,
and I'm going to
yeah.
say, oh, this is what just came out in this meeting of me. And I learned this about myself, which I also think the more we can learn about ourselves and our own tendencies and see ourselves as humans, just like we see other people as humans, the more we can actually engage in a healthy way and help others be their best selves as well. So I hope listeners are like listening to all of these words, and listeners, feel free, put it in the chat. Tell us if you were doing your killer dominator or your connector social whatever thing is. What are you up
got
to?
it. Yeah.
And your experiences with it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about team culture. And one of the things that I think, especially right now with the challenges some individuals and teams are having with funding. I work in the research space and driving medical technology to commercialization. And so there's been a lot of challenges with funding and a lot of where it's taking a step back and saying, okay, wait, is the culture, the team culture that we thought we had, is it still thriving? Or are there signals to where we're starting to have challenges with that? So can you talk a little bit about, first off, what do you think separates a thriving team culture from one that just looks good on the surface? That's question one. And then, and I'll remind you these questions. Question two is that how do you make sure as a leader that you're not being complacent thinking you have an amazing culture, but you actually have some signs showing where you need to actually focus on it because it's starting to diminish?
Those are such powerful questions and meaningful ones too. And where do you even begin? I think the first step really needs to take some vulnerable. Yeah, you got to be serious with yourself and truly vulnerable and ask yourself as a leader, is the team where I would love them to be? From human to human perspective. Forget the metrics right now. Human to human. Are people bringing their A game, or are they holding things back? If they're holding back in any way by not contributing vocally to conversations, maybe they're not turning their webcams on, and maybe you have a culture of not turning webcams on if you're hybrid or remote, are people just not fully showing up? And then you have to ask yourself as the leader, what am I doing to create that? Because there might not be that, psychologically safe environment. There may not be the space that you are allowing for people to play. Your dominator, your achiever could be too strong. and you're quieting your team. You're preventing them from showing up. So if you're feeling like there's this, we're not thriving in the way that I would like it to be, I would have people in my gamification language just look at, what do you need to turn up? What do you need to turn down? Because maybe you need to turn up the connector. Like, let's just forget about metrics for a moment when you're having your one-on-ones with people and truly try to connect with what's going on. What I will also say is, if you are a leader and you're finding that you could benefit from connecting deeper with your team and it's not a typical behavior that you demonstrate, it's going to take time for your team to trust that you truly want to get to know them. Because
Yes.
if you were to ask, like, how's it going? How's the family? And you're like, wait, what? You never ask me this. They're probably going to close up even more. So what I would say is, you go first. You say, you know what?
People get suspicious and they're like,
Oh.
what is your agenda?
Yes.
What do you want out of me? And then they're sitting across from you or on Zoom, and they're now not focused on anything you're saying. They're focused on their internal conversation, the story they're telling. Here's my Brene Brown, right?
Sure.
The story they're telling themselves in their head based on what your motive is in the scenario.
Yeah, because we live in a very untrusting, distrusting, whatever the right word is, environment these days. Uncertainty is around every possible corner. And so if you want to build a connection with your team, you need to go first. Think about it as a game. It's like, you need to be the person who's going to take the actions, play your card deck first, which is saying, look, listen, things have been chaotic. The pace of which we're working has been crazy. I'm going to be the first to say it. And so in this one-on-one, I want to just take a moment to just connect, to say, how are you doing? What can I help you with?
So I think too, I was thinking about a phrase that ties to your gamification. And I think as a leader, even if you've done that introspective component and really dug into a challenge, then if you say to a team member, okay, I've realized that I've spent a lot of recent years not really getting to know team members as humans, and I'm missing out on so much joy in life because of that. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you, Caitlin, that I'm going to challenge myself to improve in this area. So can you give me gold stars if I actually crush this? Because I really want to. And we're going to start right now because I really want to know. I don't want to hear that you had a good weekend. I want to know what your favorite thing about the weekend was. And starting, but being transparent and saying, I'm challenging myself in this.
Yes.
Now, will you please, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down when I'm like, okay, no, that was not good. Okay.
Yeah.
Not going to do that again. Now we're going to do this instead.
Yeah. No, I love how you just you turned that into a game, and you were completely upfront with your team in this role play that we're having now, right? That you want to challenge yourself to become a better leader that's more connected with each team member. And I'm going to start today. Now, I would also challenge you too, if you decide oh my gosh, I'm going to do that, I'm going to turn it into a game to create these opportunities to connect with my team in a different way. Keep going for 21 days. Because if you ask the one time, how are you? And you change your tone of voice and you try to get really connected. Like you said, the other person on the other line is going to be totally suspicious of that. So you've got to build this. If you're going to ask and connect, you've got to build this behavior into your routine as a leader and keep doing it. And eventually your team will start to warm up because they're like, oh, they're serious. They do want to know what my favorite thing was from this weekend that I did. And then again, also share yours first as a leader.
Exactly. And I think too, listeners, these are not hacks for people who are not genuine to get towards success, because there is no path towards being a badass leader that you can reach by not being genuine.
100%. And that's where I think the human to human piece is. Forget metrics for a second, right? Just connect with the human in front of you.
Okay, so then we talked a little bit about culture. I want to talk about legacy. I'm really big about legacy, and I think that also, when I heard your beginning story when you were talking about your conversation and the raspberry with your daughter, and you suddenly said, wait, I don't want to do this because I'm actually teaching her this and I want better for her. I think of that as a piece of legacy, is you're changing the world and you're making the world a better place by making action and change now that's going to have this lasting impact. So tell me what kind of legacy you're trying to build, and not just professionally, but also personally at this stage in your career.
Okay, so what first comes to mind, and I'm going to go with what my Ikigai, reason for being, legacy definition is today, right? What I want my legacy to be at this point is I love the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. I want to beat him. This is my dominator coming out, right? I am going after James Clear with the book that I'm writing on how to gamify your goals, gamify your life intent. And by all means, please buy his book. But I want mine right next to him because I want you to buy mine so that you can sustain those habits and create just lasting fun as you're just creating epic missions and epic impacts in life. So watch out, James Clear. I used to joke that I was silently competing against James Clear, but I tell everybody
now
about
it's all
this.
over.
Yeah. I tell everybody. Yeah, and I've been studying it like it's a true dominator. Like I'm studying his approach. It took him 10 years to get that book out in the world and make the impact that he has been making. He's got an amazing weekly newsletter that's just on point every time. Like I appreciate his approach. I appreciate his vulnerability and sharing his story about why goal achievement is so important for him. So yeah, that just got me really fired up. So watch out, James Clear.
I love, one of the things that I've done is I want to compete with Simon Sinek or Joe Rogan, right?
Yes.
And I'm constantly like, I would love for you to be on my podcast, right? But no. And also the reminder, what you just said, it took him 10 years to get to these. Once again, we're back to chapter 1, chapter 10. And so I'll pull up Joe Rogan and how many views, like the billions or trillions or whatever. I don't remember the number, but I remember one day I pulled it up and I just thought, oh my gosh, I'll never, like, how in the world? And then I remembered how many years he's been doing this and listened to him and followed him and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, no, we're just going to be, a little bit closer and a little bit closer and compete. And then also say it on the world. So Joe Rogan or Simon Sinek, you are welcome to be a guest on this podcast. I will welcome you. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about where you're going next. So we just talked about your one level up move is finishing your book and having it on the New York Times seller list for way longer than Atomic Habits, right?
That's right.
What else is in your personal game plan for what you're up to next?
Oh my gosh. So I actually have a wild card. A wild card has presented itself in my life, and they always show up when you least expect it, but then it's like you were always looking for it and you had no clue. So here's my wild card. And James Clear, I'm grateful to know it took 10 years because it will probably take me several more years to get my book out in the world, because here's my wild card. I have an opportunity to take all of my epic knowledge and bring it into an organization as the VP and partner. And so I'm becoming this new role in just a very short couple weeks where actually my mom said it the best. And she said it's almost as if I'm getting my PhD, because I do have my bachelor's and master's in communication, actually. And so with this new opportunity to become a VP and partner for a consulting firm and bring all of my gamification experience as well, it's almost as if I will be getting my PhD and truly applying this knowledge in a completely different way to make bigger impacts. This is where the collaboration piece comes in.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Of being able to collaborate with a amazing company that both of us were curious in conversations. And it has
Okay, so for listeners, I know that Caitlin can't tell you right now, probably, because she hasn't said it. So I'm going to read between the lines, but you have to follow her on LinkedIn. We will put all of her and her website, all of that will be in the show notes. So now make sure you follow so that you can learn what the secret of her next big
what my wild card
step is.
That's right.
I love this. I love this. Okay, are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Okay, bring it on. Yes.
Bring it on. Okay, so first off, we already talked about this, but in one sentence, tell us once again, what does leaving a legacy mean to you?
Epic impacts. 2 words.
Love it. Perfect. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Stay close to the values and create the decisions that align with your values.
Love. Okay, favorite leadership book of all time?
Atomic Habits? Does that count?
So what we're saying, we're putting a caveat. We have an asterisk next to that. Right now is Atomic Habits. Your next one will be your book that's coming out.
That's right.
It's okay to say your own book is your favorite book in the future.
Yeah,
okay,
my future book.
What's one? Yes, exactly. What's one daily habit that fuels your success?
Laughing every day.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, biggest myth about leadership you wish you could kill?
Don't be afraid to be vulnerable.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about the vulnerability piece is that I think that is something that, came up with the younger generation, and I think really post-COVID, and it went through this phase where some people thought it was cool to do, and then they did, but they weren't doing it authentically. They didn't really understand the science. They didn't understand that it wasn't a leadership hack or a life hack or a company hack, but really a game changer for life in so many different ways. And I want to encourage, and so I've seen the pendulum switch for, go back and forth on vulnerability. And I really want to encourage people to have it go back into being more vulnerable. I've never regretted being vulnerable in situations because every time I have, the amount of growth I've had with the other individual has been huge.
And, it doesn't have to be like, let me share my whole life story with you and I'm so vulnerable right now. It can be, I don't know. That's an interesting question. Let's go find out together.
I love it. And actually, the I don't know is one of my favorite. Okay, other side story. I remember early days when we were building Florence, I was in a meeting and we had we just hired our first legit marketing person, Blake Adams. He was amazing. And to be clear, I didn't think we needed a marketing person yet. We were a young, struggling startup company, right? We were doing fine with our PowerPoints and that kind of stuff. Okay. I was so wrong. Marketing was a game changer, hiring someone who actually knew. So we're sitting in the meeting, okay? And I don't remember what the term was he used. He used some term. And I'm looking around the rest of the C-suite and leadership team, and they're all shaking their head yes. And I have no clue, Caitlin, what he's talking about. So finally I say, okay, hold on a second. What does that word even mean?
Yeah.
And suddenly most of everyone else in the room said they didn't know either. And I looked at them and I'm like, you guys all suck. You guys were all sitting there shaking your heads.
Yeah, pretending. Oh, humans can see right through the pretend. So don't do that. It'll create distrust with your team. Like, be upfront, be honest. And that's what I mean by being vulnerable, is just be who you are, ask the questions, be curious, and then collaborate and solve it together.
Love. Okay, next one. Triathlon or keynote stage? Where do you feel more alive?
Oh, well, my eyes just lit up with keynote stage. And I feel that the triathlon training builds me for success for keynotes, because you just do not know what's going to be thrown at you when you're trying to speak to a group of people. And I want to bring my A game every single time. And it's a joyride. It's just a thrill to be in front of a group of people and to share my life's work. And that's how I feel when I'm in a triathlon. It's like my life's work of exercise and training and pushing through hard things and seeing if I can do it.
Okay, I'll let you slide by not picking an answer on that one. I just want to say for the
both.
record,
It was
listener.
kind of both. It was both. I feel like they go together. I truly do. And here's why, though, because I come up with so many brilliant ideas while I'm training for a triathlon.
Yes.
And so I do. Yes. That's where I feel like they go hand in hand for me.
Okay, I'm going to let you slide on that one. Okay, so if leadership are a game, what's the boss level you're most excited to beat next?
Sales.
Oh,
learning
tell me more.
Sales. Yes.
Yes.
Not it's a mindset shift. It's a shift from I don't want to be a used car salesman, but I want to be able to help you with the products and services and the knowledge that I have. There was a while that I had on LinkedIn in my header, ask me anything about gamification. And somebody asked me, do you know who asked me, Angela? It was a Harvard business professor who freaking taught sales. And
wow.
I'm so sorry. I cannot remember his name right now, but I was like, because I Googled him too. I'm like, is this for real or is this some like weirdo? And so he said, you know what the number one quality is for a successful salesperson? I'm like, no, I have no idea because I'm trying to figure out how to be one. And he said,
tell me more now. Right.
Yeah. He said, they just want to help. They just truly, genuinely want to help. And I have had a couple sales coaches and I'm like, I'm not good at sales. And they're like, excuse me, as they look at my background, right? And they're like, you sold this, you've done this, and I'm like, oh. So for me, it's the mindset shift of how to be one with a sales strategy that I'm comfortable with. And it's truly about connecting. If I think about it, I need to turn on my connector and connect with people and help them with whatever I need to help with. And if they don't need what I have, then be okay with that. Don't be the pushy salesperson.
Absolutely. Because they're not going to be happy afterwards, right? One of the things that when we were building this last company that I used Scott's book and I gave it to customer after we closed the deal. I said to the customer, I wrote in the front page of the book and said, look, here is how we're building our customer experience engine. If you ever see us not living up to this standard, here is my email, here is my cell phone number, call me. And I said, because what success looks like, you are happier after you pay the bill and do that than you were before.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what it is. It means you have actually helped them buy something that is improving some quality of life or something within some need, and you've then helped them reach their next badass level.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so if someone's listening and wants to go from being a reactive manager to a bold leader, what's the first action they should take today?
Oh, connect with me on LinkedIn. And then, like, seriously, like, reach out to me because I want to have a conversation with you. I want to know, like, where are you today? Where can I help you get tomorrow? See, here's my sales language.
There you go.
As I'm thinking about it, like, truly, I just want to help. I need to I want to know you. I want to know what your ambitions are, what your epic mission is, and how any of the information I have can help you.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So I know you already said this earlier, but it is a requirement, this podcast, and we always ask it at the end what your favorite motivational quote is. So, yes. Caitlin, tell us what your favorite motivational quote is.
Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you imagined. Henry David Thoreau.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for absolutely bringing so much badass into this episode. I am very grateful.
Thank you. This was awesome conversation. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me for today's episode of the Badass Leaders Podcast. To hear more interviews with industry experts and learn how to grow your career and leadership potential, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to ensure you do not miss future episodes. This podcast is a production of the AGN Group. To learn more about the AGN Group, visit our website at theagnGroup.com. There, you can discover more about our services, which include hosting workshops, management consulting, brand strategy, keynote speaking, and more. Follow us on all social media channels shown on the screen and displayed in the show notes. And until next week, be brave and be badass.